compounding. And this wasn't something I really thought about before, but like looking at all this data really puts it in a new light. That just the power of minimizing your losses and kind of focusing on that absolute performance, right? We can't really get caught up in the problem where it's like, oh, we're down 500 basis points today, but the market's down 700, so, we're up 200 in a way, but we still lost a lot of money, and it's still a pit that we have to climb out of, right? And super investors themselves, like you look at their performance history, right, and they do lose money occasionally, like it happens, but it's always very minimal, or sometimes or a lot of times they underperform the market, but they're always making money, even in downturns, so it's just really important and really amazing secrets to their success, right? Their emphasis on keeping that kind of margin of safety, just making sure that there is a big enough gap, big enough opportunity to make money without a big risk of losing money, right, is very important. Klarman actually talked about that kind of averaging down, which I think makes a lot of sense, and surprisingly that isn't actually something that I've encountered before, but it makes so much sense, right? Why would you put all of your money in when you could possibly count on the price dropping, and it's just like a win-win situation, because if it goes up, it goes up, and if it goes down, you have the opportunity to put more in if you do have that conviction in that security. And finally, what I think is just amazing from these people is that you hear you listen to their quotes and everything, and they have such conviction, right? It's just amazing guts where they just keep going forward and making a lot of these investments and such, sometimes with total disregard for diversification, a lot of what's kind of conventional wisdom today, right? Yet they continue to outperform and really kill it, as we'd say. All right, so personal views. So all of this, I did want to thank you guys a lot. This is a very unique, I guess, kind of application process, and it was really interesting and a great opportunity to read Seth Klarman's book. But I think overall, I would feel comfortable investing along with the super investors. I think value investing makes a lot of sense. The only thing is I do think though that there is still value to modern portfolio theory. And today, modern portfolio theory is actually evolving. I'm not sure if you've read anything on that, but so beforehand it was very much very stringent, like let the statistics do everything, right? But now I've been reading some interesting articles about how they're adapting modern portfolio theory to kind of to kind of focus a little more on that asset selection. So paying a lot of attention to management, paying a lot of attention to company performance and the 10Ks and kind of the company internals. And in short, that sounds a lot like value investing. So it seems like there is that sort of synthesis happening, which I think is very interesting, and it's definitely a great topic for thesis, once again, research topic. I'm a student after all. But I think I do think the diversification can play a role, and I think that does go more with investment style. But overall, like value investing, the fundamentals, focusing on the fundamentals rather, I think is most important with that conviction, with that philosophy of getting rich slowly. I think I would invest my parents' money. The only caveat to that, go ahead, sorry.
You think, I'm just curious, I don't know the answer to this. Are they teaching a lot more bottom up as well as top down nowadays, you think?
They're not necessarily at my school. At my school, it seems that obviously academics are always against technical analysts, technical investors. They're always against that. But at least at my school, we sort of teach fundamental analysis, but we're a lot more heavily weighted toward modern portfolio theory. But I think that, and I can't really speak for the university level, but I know that for a lot of fund managers are talking about kind of with modern portfolio theory that they are making a lot of modifications just because the results aren't really showing. I think it's, for instance, like Eugene Fama, for instance, very big proponent of EMT, CAPM, et cetera. Like even in recent years, I remember reading something where he himself said 40% of returns aren't explained by the risk associated with them, which is a very big recantation by him. So I do think there is some sort of change on the horizon regarding people's thoughts toward modern portfolio theory. But I'm just a student here. But even so, I still think there's definitely some interesting developments to come ahead. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So just moving on. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you can finish it up now.
Okay, what?
Oh, go ahead. Continue.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Parents' money, I think I would invest my parents' money, but the only caveat I think is I would definitely need a a lot more time to make sure I can make the great decisions and really put that hard work in. You can't. I feel like it's not really something you can do kind of half-heartedly, right? You have to really put all you've got into it. And I think that investing their money would really help, make, like, if anyone invests their parents' money, I feel like it would just naturally incline you to be a lot more cautious, a lot more careful, follow these sound principles, and not be very, very reckless, which we're actually encouraged to do when we're young, right? You've heard the saying, when you're young, go and buy, like, 9 speculative stocks, but I know value investing teaches a lot differently. But yeah, that concludes my presentation. Here, Seth Klarman really sums it up. He just says, consistently trying not to lose money, and in doing so, that's what makes him really successful. That's what makes him really, really rich. Right. And this is just, 5-year rolling data. Again, super investors beat across the board, and this is just my data for the efficient frontier. But great. Do you have any other questions for me?
Anyone have anything? Oh, so you did solve for the minimum variance frontier.
Right, exactly.
Okay, all right. Well, I wasn't sure. It's kind of hard to see with the graphs printed out in front of me if that was the minimum or not. So that answers one of my questions. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
I just said it answered one of my questions. Did you?
Okay.
Did you solve for the optimum? The optimum portfolio?
Right, I did. Well, I'm sure there's like a cleaner way to do it, but the way I did it was just using Excel Solver to just maximize the Sharpe ratio with certain constraints. But right.
Okay. There we go.
But yeah, I think matrix multiplication, very, very exciting. This was just something new introduced to me this last semester, and I was excited for this chance to kind of try it out and use it. But
it's good to actually start to apply it, right?
Right. It's one thing for the professor. Go ahead, sorry.
Okay. When you said you wouldn't invest your parents' money because it would take a lot of time and energy and conviction to do the research, why not a value fund that's already established?
A value fund already is. I'm not entirely sure of the mechanical aspects of that, just because I know a lot of value funds are very, very selective with their investments, and I know especially for the super investor funds, they hardly let anyone in. And also the issue is I definitely have to do a lot of research on the value funds as well, just to make sure they're really value funds, right? I know Klarman talks a lot about that because, it's very, very fashionable to say you're a value fund because, value, very, very positive connotation, but that too would definitely involve that research, and it's definitely something I would consider.
Can you give some
examples?
Parents, sorry,
go ahead.
Give some examples of, what would you look for in a fund?
Right.
If you were looking out.
Right. Overall, so with the fund, I'd just like to see that, of course, the very, very common things that are indicative of value funds, which are, low turnover ratios, et cetera, not very, very looking at kind of the metrics. Also, they don't invest in a lot of very, very fashionable kind of fatty kind of companies, right? Looking at past performance is also good as well. But overall, I think to look at these funds, to kind of properly evaluate them, we need to look at long-term and kind of more long-term performance instead of kind of year to year, which I think is oftentimes a mistake because if we look at the super investors and we compare them to the market, like some years that just by the nature of their business and their conviction, like they definitely don't outperform the market. But over the long term is really when you see the genius of it, right? So the best place for my parents' money would be somewhere that would be more established, longer term. But of course, I feel that the challenge to that is also the older funds and the more established funds would also be more selective. Obviously, I don't have experience in that, but that's just my intuition.
So in your appendix 2, when you look at the your expected returns and your standard deviation, the top right, is that over the 20 years?
Sorry, which back on the.
It's your last page.
No, appendix 2.
Oh, appendix 2.
Okay, sure. Which one? Over.
The top right, is that over 20 years? Your expected returns?
Over the top right. Oh, yes. It's the average of all the data over 20 years, yes.
Of all the 20-year data, okay.
Mm-hmm. I did want to ask, and I'm not sure if it's, I guess, my place to ask, but this is something I'm interested in that, like, is there something that I could have done better that wasn't as correct, you know what I mean, with kind of these calculations?
It's not so much the calculations, although we really like to see that, someone can do them. Just more so the understanding of value and comparing it to modern portfolio theory.
Mm-hmm.
So that's mostly what we're
looking for. All right,
for.
thank you. Good, good. But this is definitely very, very interesting. Thank you for the opportunity, absolutely. I actually really enjoyed doing it.
Thank you very much, and I think that Eric, will be in touch with you. So I think appreciate your talk, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from Eric soon. And thank you so much.
Yeah, great job.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you. Thanks.